All right. We're going to talk about one of the paramount elements of your day of fly fishing. That's getting your rig set. So I'm going to walk through a series of items. I use 5 different things, and I wrote these down so I could remember them. Even though they just seem to come off the top of my head when I'm fishing. The first is, I get my reel out and I start to get a connection. So I take my rod out, I assemble my rod, make sure it's nice and straight, etc., and I connect and thread my line. The key that I found here, and this was a tip given to me a long time ago when I first started fishing, is don't thread your leader. Instead, go down your line, fold your line, and start to thread it like this. When you do that, it's going to go up through your guides. And if you drop it, because of that bend in the line, that bend naturally wants to be nice and big, and that's going to cause it from falling back down through all the guides and having you start over again. So that's the first. Thread your line and set your reel. Once you have that done, take your line and pull your line against your rod and make sure that your line is going through all the eyelets. You didn't miss any. That is the first thing I do. As soon as I get my line threaded, I grab my cork and I bend the rod and I look, okay, I got a nice rainbow here. Everything's through all the guides, or I'm missing something and I got to start over. Okay. Next is check your reel seat. Your reel seat should be really nice and tight on your reel so it doesn't come loose. Some of them are pretty handy in that your rod will have, 2 different nuts for it that will get it nice and tight on the reel seat and don't allow it to back off. Okay. After that, I usually have everything set on the rod for that most part, and I like to start to test the drag for what I want for the drag. Now, your reel is made in trout fishing to really hold line. Most of the time when you're trout fishing, you're not going to have a fish on the drag fighting it in multiple runs. However, what you don't want to have from your reel is the drag to a tightness where if you pull off like this, it's going to cause a backlash and allow a lot of line to fly. So you want it to be pretty nice and smooth to where your drag really captures the line, but isn't putting a lot of force on your tippet, etc. Now, if you have a fish that gets on and it's fighting like crazy, you can click your drag up one at a time and see how that feels. But the reality is most of the time you're going to be fighting your fish with your stripping. Okay. So getting really good at that is going to help. Okay. You got your reel seat tight. Now you set your drag. The next thing I do is I start to check my leader. I want to make sure that all my knots are set, that there aren't any nicks in my line, et cetera, et cetera. What we commonly do is have a leader set up on our line and we pull it out of our rod rack, et cetera, and we just walk to the river and start making a cast. But when you get your rod set up, or if you have one that's already set up, one of the key elements that I like to do is run my fingers down the leader. If I run my fingers down the leader, I feel for a couple things. One, do I have any junk on the leader? Two, are the knots set? Are the knots in the right place? Or are there additional wind knots maybe in place that I want to remove? Okay. I pull that finger down the leader. Now I'm starting to feel also, are there nicks in place down by my flies or anywhere in the leader that might cause a potential break? If so, I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to replace it. I don't want a failure to be the last part of my fishing outing and really ruin my day. Okay, so the last thing is taking a look at your rod and making sure all your guides and et cetera, are in alignment. You kind of do that at the beginning when you feed your line and, check your guides to make sure they are. But at the very end, I like to do that one more time because I've gone through, had the rod laying on this or that, et cetera. It might not have been as tight as I thought it was, et cetera, et cetera. So being able to go back through it, make sure everything is in alignment and checking all of the connection points so that I'm good to go. If I do all of those things, the last thing I'm worrying about throughout the day is my setup. I'm really just thinking about fishing. So good luck out there. get a nice routine together for yourself, and be successful on the water. Tight lines, everyone. We'll see you.